Joseph A. Schumpeter, Capitalism, Socialism and Democracy. Embark on a journey through the insights and analysis of Joseph A. Schumpeter's Capitalism, Socialism and Democracy, as he examines the prophetic qualities of Karl Marx's theories, the positives and negatives of capitalism, and the potential for socialism within the framework of democracy. As we navigate the complexities of these economic systems and their implementations, we will delve into the concept of creative destruction in capitalism, the potential of socialism to coexist with democracy, and how the features of capitalism may eventually lead to its own downfall.
Marx's prophetic mistake. The towering figure of Karl Marx graced the world with game-changing ideas, introducing us to the workings of societies and economies. However, his theories left behind some critical factors in understanding modern capitalism. Joseph Schumpeter acknowledges Marx's contributions but questions his oversimplification of class struggle, the omission of entrepreneurs, and the susceptibility of Marxism to explain the ever-evolving nature of capitalism. Karl Marx, a renowned German economist and philosopher, left an indelible mark on the social sciences. His arguments for an upcoming revolution, waged by the working class, established him as the champion of socialism. But what makes Marxism so revered by its followers? That's because Marx's ideas were not only radical, but also eerily prophetic. Marx was among the first to identify the economy as the driving force behind societies, people's actions, and their beliefs. He also noticed the cyclical nature of economic processes, predicting that economic crises would inevitably crop up periodically. Although Marx's theories demonstrated prophetic qualities, they didn't account for the nuances of modern capitalism. Joseph Schumpeter, a fan of Marx's work, conceded that Marx's insights were invaluable to economics. However, Schumpeter also noted several incongruities in Marx's concept of capitalism. For instance, Marx portrayed history as a battle between only two classes, the working class, proletariat, and the capitalists, bourgeoisie. The proletariat sells their labor to the bourgeoisie, who own the means of production. Marx's theories emphasize that capitalism encourages business owners to exploit the proletariat by making them work longer hours without proper compensation. This extraction of surplus value is the basis of profit, eventually causing the poor to become poorer and businesses to become less profitable. Schumpeter identified a few cracks in Marx's theory, stressing the absence of a third class vital to capitalism, entrepreneurs. These visionaries neither belong to the bourgeoisie nor the proletariat, but through their innovations and ideas, they strive to join the higher echelons. By doing so, they continuously revolutionize capitalism from within. Moreover, Schumpeter argued that Marxism is too stationary to explain the ever-changing dynamics of modern capitalism. Marxism ignores the adaptive nature of capitalism and fails to account for its transformation in response to various forces. Lastly, Schumpeter refuted Marx's claim that capitalism breeds oppression and poverty. Contrary to Marx's assertions, capitalism has significantly improved the lives of the majority living under its influence, and as we'll delve into further, this improvement is palpable in various aspects of modern society. Capitalism's unfolding success. Far from diminishing societal progress, capitalism has driven economic growth and improved living standards across the board. From increased income to better and cheaper products, capitalism's reach extends into multiple aspects of our lives, cultivating a rational mindset and pushing for innovative breakthroughs. Through its inextricable links to hard work and invention, capitalism continues to march our world forward. When discussing capitalism's impact, it's essential to note the undeniable progress that societies have made under this economic system. The Communist Manifesto even acknowledges capitalism's accomplishments, with Marx recognizing it as a necessary historical stage before the rise of socialism. Capitalism has paved the way for tremendous social and intellectual growth through its inherent mechanisms. One primary aspect of capitalism's progress is its sheer economic power. By examining a nation's yearly total production of goods and services, we can witness the thriving capitalist economy at work. A prime example is the United States during the Industrial Revolution to the 1940s, which saw average total production growth of about 2% per year. In tandem with this economic growth, people's average income also rose. Contrary to Marx's predictions, the income gap between the rich and the poor did not significantly widen until much later in the 20th century. Thus, it's safe to say that capitalism is responsible for immense social and intellectual advancements. Economic progress under capitalism improved life in numerous ways. As disposable incomes grew, people began to indulge in various personal goods and services, enriching their lives. Moreover, they found their money stretching further as products, like automobiles, decreased in cost proportionally over time. Companies, motivated by competition, focused on improving quality in general standards to win over customers. Products once exclusive to the elite, like white stockings, became accessible to the masses, displaying capitalism's more egalitarian side. Furthermore, capitalism's problematic aspects, such as child labor and exhaustive workdays, gradually disappeared. This transformation illustrates that capitalism, as a system, is adaptive and capable of becoming less harmful over time. Beyond facilitating material progress, capitalism has also cultivated a certain economic rationality. Applying cost-profit calculations to diverse fields, including space exploration, medicine, and justice, has replaced the magic and mysticism of the past, leading to a more pragmatic and efficient society. Capitalism encourages hard work, innovation, and invention. As a result, our modern way of living remains indebted to this economic system. From refrigerators to airplanes, radio, and television, capitalism has been an engine driving society forward, improving lives and shaping our reality in the process. Capitalism's creative destruction. Capitalism fuels progress through constant change, and its very nature hinges on a process called creative destruction. This concept acknowledges that businesses and entrepreneurs can never rest on their laurels, as they continuously face competition and the pressure to innovate. As new markets, products, and production methods emerge, they eliminate and replace old systems to foster progress. This transformative nature of capitalism challenges the notion of perfect competition and demands a comprehensive understanding of its dynamic workings. A major driving force behind capitalism's ability to stimulate progress is its inherent inclination toward transformation and growth. Businesses and entrepreneurs must always be vigilant of competition and be prepared for the rapidly changing landscape. The pressure to restructure, create, and innovate propels capitalism forward, ensuring that no business can stay at the top indefinitely. As strategies that once led to success can quickly become obsolete, new markets, consumer goods, and production methods consistently arise. This relentless cycle of change is termed creative destruction. This vital aspect of capitalism's inner workings often goes unrecognized in various economic theories, including Marxism. The concept of perfect competition has been proposed by some economists as the ideal state for capitalism, where all companies in a market offer identical products and compete solely on price. However, this presumption oversimplifies the true nature of capitalism. Joseph Schumpeter, the economist who popularized the term creative destruction, challenged the concept of perfect competition, arguing that it never truly existed. Schumpeter recognized that competition extends beyond price, encompassing factors such as product quality in advertising. He emphasized that capitalism is a relentless process that involves ongoing innovation and destruction. Therefore, to fully grasp capitalism's essence, it is crucial to recognize and analyze the creative destruction process. This dynamic, ever-evolving nature has consistently shaped capitalism throughout history and continues to influence its relationship with other economic systems, such as socialism. No limits to socialism's success. Socialism could work because there's no inherent reason preventing it from operating efficiently. While capitalist markets self-regulate through constant competition with pricing to match supply and demand, a socialist market can rely on a central authority to determine pricing based on consumer demand. The main difference is the lack of competition. The central authority may face some challenges in managing a whole economy, but it's no harder than those faced by businesses under capitalism. Therefore, socialism has potential to function, with its compatibility with democracy being a separate topic for discussion. Throughout history, socialism has been seen as the chief alternative to capitalism. Unlike its counterpart, socialism embraces a central authority to control the means of production, instead of multiple private players. Economists have long questioned the feasibility of socialism in reality. The heart of the argument is that there's nothing stopping socialism from succeeding. Whereas a capitalist economy thrives on relentless competition, with organizations and individuals driving market regulations, a socialist economy entrusts regulation to an external entity, usually a political authority. One way this authority could function is through the distribution of vouchers, which represent a person's share in the goods produced by the country's economy. Determining the value of each voucher is simple in theory: divide all goods by the total number of claimants. However, some economists question how demand for a particular product would be gauged without price competition. Capitalism relies on prices to balance supply and demand, but Schumpeter, an economist, believed that a similar system could be implemented under socialism. The government could establish a pricing authority for each industry, basing decisions on consumer demand. Additionally, consumers might receive varying income based on their work contributions. While this approach may resemble capitalism, socialism lacks the fierce competition intrinsic to the capitalist market. It thrives under the direction and guidance of a central authority, instead of being molded by internal market forces. Consequently, there's no logical reason socialism can't work. Critics concede this theoretical possibility but argue it's infeasible in actuality, claiming a government wouldn't possess the information necessary for seamless economic operation. Schumpeter counters this, stating that the challenges faced by a governing body in socialism are analogous to the decisions businesses make in capitalism. In either case, running an efficient system requires calculated guesswork. Ultimately, Schumpeter perceives socialism as a viable economic model. However, whether it coexists harmoniously with democracy is another question examined in the next sections. Rethinking democracy and socialism. Democracy, often idealized and oversimplified as rule by the people, demands a more accurate definition to reflect the complexities of modern societies. In reality, democracy permits individuals to vie for people's votes to gain power for implementing decisions. Understanding this updated definition of democracy, we can then evaluate its effectiveness under socialism. It's quite common to perceive democracy as the ultimate good, but is it? Can democracy be an end in itself, or is it merely a political method? Consider a society that democratically decides to bring back witch hunts. Such an outcome would be horrific, challenging the notion of democracy as inherently good or bad. In order to understand democracy's compatibility with socialism, it's crucial to have an accurate definition of democracy that considers the realistic implications of elections. Traditional thinking defines democracy as a method for making political decisions for the common good by enabling individuals to elect their leaders. However, this assumes that people have the ability to rationally agree on what the common good is and can cooperatively implement those decisions. The truth is, modern societies are far too complex to boil down to such neat and tidy assumptions. Our interests and values are diverse, irrational, and often influenced by external factors like advertising or politicians. Therefore, we need a more precise definition of democracy, making political decisions by allowing individuals to compete for votes, ultimately obtaining the power to execute those decisions. This definition acknowledges that politicians, not voters, rule countries while clarifying the people's role in choosing the government, rather than being the government themselves. It also recognizes that no democratic government can represent everyone, only a majority. With this updated definition of democracy in mind, we can now examine its relationship with socialism. Understanding that democracy isn't an end in itself but rather a political method, we're better equipped to assess how democracy functions within a socialist framework. This refined perspective paves the way for a deeper, more insightful evaluation of how democracy and socialism coexist and interact in today's intricate world. Socialism's compatibility with democracy. The relationship between socialism and democracy has been a topic of debate throughout history. Some argue that creating a socialist society requires undemocratic methods, while others assert that socialism may be just as compatible with democracy as capitalism is. For key conditions for a thriving democracy include high-quality leadership, an appropriate range of political decisions, a well-functioning bureaucracy, and public acceptance of diverse opinions. The compatibility between socialism and democracy is important to consider, as socialism may eventually replace capitalism. Delving into the intricacies of socialism and democracy, one can observe that these ideologies are not necessarily inextricably linked or mutually exclusive. History has shown that socialist parties in countries like Belgium, the Netherlands, and England have readily embraced democracy, while in Russia, socialism was enforced through undemocratic means. To understand under which conditions democracy thrives, we must consider four essential factors. First, the availability of high-quality leaders is crucial for a functioning democracy. The political sphere should attract intelligent, capable, and conscientious individuals. Second, political decisions made democratically should remain within a suitable scope. Not every decision needs democratic input, as exemplified by the appointment of Supreme Courts in many countries. The third element is the presence of a well-functioning bureaucracy that efficiently handles the mundane yet significant tasks involved in democratic decision-making. Lastly, public acceptance of the decision-making processes and an ability to tolerate diverse opinions are vital to maintaining a stable democracy. Contrary to popular belief, Schumpeter posited that democracy could emerge as a byproduct of capitalism's rationalist ideology, with these four key conditions present in both socialist and capitalist systems. While no system is flawless, democratic decision-making can falter in large and complex societies, and central governance can struggle with efficiency. The possibility of socialism coexisting with democracy can serve as an important foundation for the future, as socialism may ultimately replace capitalism. Capitalism's self-destruction. Capitalism, with its innate drive for progress and innovation, is paving the way for its own demise. By promoting automation, replacing entrepreneurs with impersonal structures, eroding bourgeois protections, and undermining traditional family units, capitalism weakens our motivation and ultimately endangers its own foundations, potentially ushering in a socialist era. Capitalism's inherent force lies in its ability to stimulate social and technological advancements through the mechanism of creative destruction. However, what if all human needs were satisfied, and our motivation to innovate and progress dissipated? The primary characteristics of capitalism will ultimately result in its self-destruction. One of the core reasons behind capitalism's fragility is the increasing automation and predictability of progress. As businesses become less reliant on entrepreneurs and more dependent on automated processes overseen by managers, executives, and stockholders, the human aspect of running a successful enterprise diminishes. This impersonal shift results in less incentive for entrepreneurial leadership and a growing emphasis on the administration of existing processes, an element that socialism can manage just as effectively as capitalism. Moreover, capitalism inevitably erodes the mechanisms that once protected the bourgeoisie. The capitalist-driven push for rationalist ideologies awakens a critical mindset, leading individuals to question and eventually turn against bourgeois ideals. This phenomenon is evident in the increasing number of intellectuals shunning capitalism in favor of the working-class perspective. Capitalism also gradually disintegrates the foundation of traditional family units. In a world driven by rationalization and cost-benefit analyses, more people will weigh the pros and cons of having children and may ultimately choose to remain child-free. Consequently, individuals have less incentive to invest in long-term assets like property, which negatively impacts the constant economic growth that capitalism necessitates. As capitalism raises living standards, offers leisure time, and improves education, it simultaneously weakens our motivation to work, innovate, and prosper. This self-defeating cycle ultimately threatens the very structures that support the capitalist system. Schumpeter, one of the key figures in understanding the dynamics of capitalism, argued that this would be the mechanism to eventually replace capitalism with socialism. While this idea may seem concerning at first, it is crucial to remember that change does not always signify disaster. Embracing the advent of socialism and aligning it with democratic values could potentially usher in a new era of social and economic stability.
Ultimately, Schumpeter's exploration of capitalism, socialism, and democracy demonstrates capitalism's significant achievements but also points out its inherent weaknesses. Recognizing both the potential of socialism to work and the coexistence it can have with democracy, we must face the possible self-destruction of capitalism as it continues to evolve. The journey through the book has allowed us to glimpse the complexity and importance of understanding these economic theories, and engage in the ongoing dialogues and debates surrounding the shaping and future of our societies.